Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Goblins Cave. I'm your Goblin Chieftain, Brendan Reginbald, and today with me I have the King of Cool, Brad, my life for Eier. That's a StarCraft reference for those of you that haven't played StarCraft. But
that's cool. I don't know StarCraft, but I know Star Trek. And this is episode 4, season 4 of Deep Space Nine. They brought on Worf to boost ratings. I'm like, Worf, I'm gonna boost some ratings of the show.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
The last episode only had 30 views on YouTube when I was watching it this morning. The first one had 100.
Yeah.
So we want 150, I think.
At the bare minimum.
Yeah, at least 150.
Yeah, I think everybody should watch it at least 3 times too.
Yeah, I'm obviously going to go home and just refresh it 150 times if I need to, just so I don't look like a total scumbag.
I'm sure this video will get 1,000 hits. We have some people that subscribe to it already. That's awesome. I brought this guy in because he knows Standard, and today we're going to be talking about Standard because obviously we've got the Canton PTQ coming up on the 19th.
Yeah, real disappointed they moved it away from the chicken restaurant, though, to the hotel. I had visions of infinite Mountain Dew refills dancing in my head like a child at Christmas.
That is too sweet of a dream, and they just ripped it away.
Yeah, I played a Star Wars tournament when I was 15 or something at a restaurant at the Columbus Zoo. That was pretty neat. Mountain Dew all day. Good times.
Wow. I guess we'll have to stock some extra Mountain Dew for the trip to Canton.
Yes.
We're going to talk about this PTQ season that's coming up, Standard. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the top decks, the popular decks there. And because we're only a week away from the PTQ, and by the time you're watching this video, it'll be less than that, we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for a PTQ.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say that we are experts in this area, but at least I'm speaking for myself. But I'm just saying we're going to try and just maybe highlight some things that should be considered and that we try to consider.
I mean, I think you and I have both played in a number of PTQs. We've each made the top 8 at least once of a PTQ, so we have some experience. Not more suggestions and things of that, because I know locally there have been a lot of new players, younger players, trying to get into a more competitive, Magic scene and want to go to PTQs and things like that. And at my first one, it's sort of a wake up call if you're not really ready for, the rules enforcement, the entry fee, how you're gonna get lunch, because there's not like a lunch break, stuff like that. So I think this might be useful to some people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. With the entry-level players who maybe haven't gotten that experience, but also a good reminder for those people that, maybe they've kind of gotten into a rhythm. They go to these PTQs and, maybe they've just kind of taken them a little bit more lightly now.
I mean, there's some people like Brad Lyman who still hasn't learned that staying up till 2 a.m. the night before the PTQ isn't the best play sometimes.
Comments and opinions from our guests on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the Goblins Cave and its affiliates.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Let's talk a little bit about the process of picking the deck to play.
Okay, I mean, I think there's a few things. First off, you want to have some sort of rough idea of what types of decks you're going to see. So you look on Star City a lot, probably Magic League a little bit, not Moto yet because AVR's not live.
Right.
Although we'll get into a little later the impact of that on Standard, that set. But, if there are results in the format, look at those. If not, look at decks from sort of the past set, see where you can fit in new things. But then you have other things. You want to test the deck, but you actually need to acquire the cards also. That's something I've had some first-hand experience with last night, cobbling together the green-red deck, and Santa Claus over here just showed up with half of it like 5 minutes before FNM, which was real clutch.
You do not want to be scrambling last minute to try and find 4 swords, War and Peace.
Right, right. Because there'll be dealers at the PTQs, and they're all real friendly people. I know a lot of them, RIW, Carl, you know, so on and so forth. But at a PTQ, you're going to pay top dollar because it's a captive market.
Yeah, they know you want that. They know you need it.
I mean, for the most part, there's been a few exceptions where no one in Cleveland had the card, so I've had to buy it. But usually if I'm at the dealer table at a PTQ, it's because I O2 dropped him and am selling off my deck. You know, not buying a new one.
So we just talked a little bit about kind of researching the format, looking on websites, even using your local metagame.
Going to City in a Bottle and just posting.
The Facebook group that we have here in Cleveland really is a nice thing.
I found out City in a Bottle is an actual Magic card, and it's kind of a blowout card also because it like destroys everything from Arabian Nights or something. I was never aware of this. I thought it was like a take on the Genie in a Bottle song by Christina Aguilera. So someone pointed out that was wrong though, that it's an actual Magic card.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I learned that just a few weeks ago. But yeah, it's a really good resource because, you know, here in Cleveland we're spread out. There's, you know, Eagle Eyes, ARG, Kid Force,
Control Alt Elite,
some sort of monkey thing. Sorry, there's also what's that one? The garage sale, by the airport. There's another store.
Ground Zero is another.
There's Ground Zero. Ground Zero is good. Yeah, so there's a number of places. So but everyone can come together and you know, sort of share ideas, funny anecdotes, whatever. Yeah. So it's a good resource.
Yeah, especially if you want to get told. That's where you go.
Told. Spent 5 minutes looking for the up arrow key on my keyboard. I couldn't. It was down here instead of up here. So
you gotta know where that is if you want to be in that group, that Facebook group. Yeah. Apparently. Let's see. So after you've done some research, alright, so you've looked online, you've looked at your local metagame, you know, maybe you've talked with some friends, you've explored the Facebook group, maybe you've put some ideas out there, you got some feelers kind of going out, what do you people think about this deck, what do people think about that deck? Alright, so maybe you've got to narrow down to 1 or 2 decks. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm a little stuck between Blue, White, Delver, and Goblins. And I know a lot of you are saying to yourselves, oh, Brennan, Goblins, yeah, everybody, you know. It's a real deck.
It is a real deck.
And when I go turn 1 Fire Slinger to somebody in round 2 at the PTQ, I'm sure they're going to be like, how did this guy make it past round 1?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. If you want to really sort of put in perspective one of the greatest assets of the Goblins deck, so Thunderous Wrath, the Miracle, 1 red, if you Miracle it, deal 5 to anything. Goblins has that and doesn't have to mize it off the top.
Right.
You know, that's just out of nowhere, you know, 2 of them and someone's at, 10 or whatever, and they're dead.
Yeah, it's, Goblin Grenade is a very powerful reprint, and it does not get any love. It really just doesn't.
Scumbag Wizards, reprint Goblin Grenade, print a block with no goblins.
Automated automaton. No, wait, adapted automaton.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
You gotta do something to make it happen. So I'm kind of torn about the decks there, and I've been talking with people, and I've been doing a little bit of testing, and Blue White Dover is good.
What's your cat's name?
What's my cat's name?
Yeah.
My cat's name is Rousedower.
Oh, wow. That's real fancy.
It's from a MST3K movie. The hero's name is...
I have not watched one of those in a long time. Yeah. Funny stuff, though.
That was from 10 years ago. Yeah, it was something that stuck with me. Rousedower.
Nice. But yeah, Goblins is real. I played it Kid Force ran this like free FNM a few weeks ago. I guess the day before the pre-release or whatever. And I was running late, so I got the round 1 loss. But then for the matches I actually played, it went 3-1. Just a pretty basic build. Probably not even the most optimal build of the deck, but it definitely has some potential.
I love it, and I've been tweaking it for days, and I think I've got it right where I want it.
Nice.
So, and we're going to be showcasing that a little bit later for you.
Foreshadowing. Nice.
So we're going to do a little bit more of this how to prepare for PTQs. Let's talk a little bit about your deck list. You show up to one of these places, they give you a sheet to list your deck, and inevitably, every tournament, no matter how much time they tell you, and how many times they tell you, and how much time they give you to double check and recheck your list, there's always somebody that gets a game loss, or a match loss, or something.
Yeah.
For misregistration.
Yeah, I mean, just double check it a few times, and, if you have a friend there, have them check it. If you have no friends like me, have the judge check it. Ask them, or ask someone who looks official, sort of, or offer someone some money to check it for you.
Yes.
Because you don't. None of us are. A lot of us are decent at Magic. None of us are unbeatable, though. Even the best, aren't unbeatable. So you're gonna pick up some losses along the way. Don't pick up extra losses that you don't need.
Right. You don't need to be stabbing yourself in the foot, or,
right.
Just stepping on your own toes. I generally have a friend take a look at it, and you got to look for things like misspellings, because if you're close enough to another word, the judge may say, "Well, you could mean this," you could mean that, even though, who really knows? I mean, but the judge. If the judge can't, if it's not clear to the judge.
Yeah, and make sure you write out the full card title, especially with, if you're a Bant deck and you put Geist, is that Strangleroot Geist? Is that Geist of St. Traff? Yep. Or like Souls, is that Cavern of Souls, Lingering Souls? That type of thing.
Koth. Yeah, you can't do that, because there's a few Koths. Koth Courier.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Stuff like that.
Obviously, Brendan would be the one to point out, don't make errors about all the Koth titled cards. I didn't know there were cards besides Koth.
It just happens to be red.
But yeah, seriously though, you don't want a deckless error, because that'd be terrible.
That's terrible. That would be a fail. That would be a major fail. Bring supplies.
Yeah, I mean, they'll usually have pen and paper, but it doesn't hurt to have some as well. Dice, but people won't let you keep life totals on dice at the PTQ.
Don't do that.
I mean, I like to do that at FNMs because I just like to save the trees at the Lorax. But, so bring supplies, bring, in your deck, in your deck box, you should have a deck box probably, or at least a rubber band or something, not just free ball in the deck. But all you can really have in that box is your deck, a 15-card sideboard, and usually they'll allow you to have your tokens,
Yep, or flip cards.
Yeah, or flip cards. But don't put, don't go to the dealer's booth and buy something for your EDH deck and jam it in that box as well. Or they'll deck check you and you'll have a sideboard that has, 16, 17 cards.
I was at a Legacy tournament one time. A guy had picked up a couple cards from the desk, the counter, and he just had them in with his sideboard, and he got deck checked, and he got a match loss. Game loss, whether it was devastating. He ended up losing the match because of it. I know that for a fact. And he was so mad and the judge said you need to display your sideboard. You can't have these cards sitting in the back that don't belong, because if they're in there with you, it's assumed that they're part of your deck.
Right.
So you gotta be careful about that.
Right. The tokens get by that because since it's a token, it can never legally be a part of your deck. So but yeah, the rest of the stuff, just keep it keep it out. I guess sort of a new one within the last 9 months. Make sure your sleeves, if they're see-through and you're using flip cards, make sure you have the checklist.
Yep.
Make sure you have the checklist marked. I mean, in a red-green deck, it's pretty obvious that the Dark Ascension checklist is probably a Huntmaster, but the judges aren't going to make that leap of logic for you.
Right. Have it clearly indicated that it's representing.
Yeah. Make sure your sleeves are all the same size. Mm-hmm. I know a certain former state champion who had a wolf run deck, which is like 25 lands, and then like the 75, there's 25 lands, 15-yard sideboard, and 35 action spells, whatever. But he bought, 2 packs of sleeves, and they come in packs of 50. But his deck was stacked. It was like the sideboard, then the, how was this? Yeah, it was the sideboard, the action spells, and then the lands. So one pack went to the sideboard and all the action. Then the next pack went to the 25 lands, and they were like a millimeter.
Just enough.
Yeah, shorter. So then he gets deck checked, and the judge is like, "What's this, Cheetor?" And they made him switch his sleeves.
Yeah.
But I mean, a vindictive judge could have rightfully, disqualified him.
Right.
DQ, no prize. So be careful.
Sounds harsh, but the problem is that there's people out there that would do that intentionally. Now, obviously, we're not saying he did that on purpose. We would not do that.
He might have.
but it's important that we don't make that mistake by accident. Yeah.
Right.
So just cover yourself.
Yeah.
Bring food.
Yeah, it's important. You might not have time to stop somewhere for breakfast in the morning. You definitely won't have time unless. Basically, for a lunch break, if you finish around early, sprint or waddle, whatever, down to the food court and get yourself something, because there's no lunch break or anything. You're going to be hungry, and obviously you can eat afterwards, but if you make the top 8, or someone in your car makes the top 8, you're going to be there a while.
Yeah.
It's also important to stay properly hydrated. You're going to get thirsty. Water is probably the best, although most of the Magic folks go for the energy drinks and Mountain Dews.
Nothing wrong with that, I suppose. I am a water guy. I always have my little bottle of water with me, and I always have snacks with me, granola bars. I'll usually have a banana or an apple with me, and all these venues that hold these tournaments, they are permitted to hold these large tournaments, 100-plus players, because they have food venues nearby, enough to take care of this many people. So there's going to be something available. But when you're driving to the place, or maybe you're map questing it or something like that, take a look around. What's there for food around the area? Ask the guy that works at the store, where is there a place to eat around here, so that when you do finish around early, between noon and 2 o'clock or something like that, and you got some time to get some lunch, you know right where to go. You just zoom, take off.
Yeah, bring money. They only accept cash, I think, for the entry fee.
Some places only accept
cash.
Yeah,
I don't know how it is now with the new setup. I haven't really done any since the sealed PTQs, but bring cash. Realize that if you want a soda, you're going to pay $4 probably for it. Or whatever. So bring money, and also at the end of the trip, whoever drove you is going to want some gas money.
Don't stiff them on gas money.
Yeah, so legitimately, you're going to need $50, I think, at a minimum. Because the entry fee's $25 or $30, gas money's $5 or $10, and then you want money for food of some sort.
Mm-hmm. And then bring a little extra, because you never know, especially if you got tolls. Maybe you need to pick up cards last minute from the dealers that are there because you thought of some last second tech. You'd be like, I gotta go pick up some Perilous Mirrors. Be ready for that.
And you never know. There's people who'll be raging and trying to have you buy cards. Now, obviously, you can't do that in the venue, but if, you're just walking to your car at the Burger King afterwards and someone offers you, some items for a discounted rate, then perhaps you want to acquire them. But certainly don't sell in the venue. They'll kick you out because the vendors, pay money to be there.
They're there to make money. Yeah.
It's like I used to work in a baseball card store, and people would try to sell stuff to other people in the store, be like, don't buy that from them, I'll sell it to you cheaper.
Right.
And the person who ran the store, the boss I had, their saying was, the reason we don't allow that is because if you were running a garage sale, you wouldn't allow me to come and sell stuff at it,
Right.
So that's basically sort of the same thing.
Too.
Yeah, I mean, brick and mortar stores cost money to operate. So if there's somewhat of a markup, it's because of that overhead, and you have a place to play and stuff.
It's well worth the money that you spend by buying it from the store, because you're guaranteeing yourself, you're supporting your local area so that you have a store to play at. Otherwise you gotta drive 45 minutes to a place or something.
Right, and I mean, I know people buy stuff on the internet. It's fine. The internet's good for any number of things, but if you need something, if it's Friday night and you need a deck for the PTQ or a card or whatever, you're gonna buy it locally anyway.
Local,
you can't. eBay takes a week to get to you.
And a lot of the local stores too will give you a price very comparable to what you'll get online.
Right, that's the thing. Because everything's so connected now, not that the stores necessarily gouged or whatever in the past, but everything's really streamlined, and so you pay, once you factor in shipping and wait time and stuff, it's pretty much the same cost everywhere you go.
Yep. All right. So that's talking about a little bit about what to bring so that you're prepared. What about some strategies after the tournament has started? Round 1 pairings are already up. What are some things maybe to keep in mind or to be aware of to help your chances to top 8?
I mean, don't waste time. Get to where you have 3 minutes from the time the pairings go up to get to your place and sit down and shuffle up and battle. So don't sit there and wait till they say go and then start shuffling and stuff, and do your mulligans and everything, especially if you have a slower deck.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say generally if your deck was blue, but blue's like the aggro deck of this format, so I don't even know anymore. But yeah, just don't waste time is a good one.
When the pairings go up, that is not normally the time to go to the bathroom.
Right, right. That's a good general piece of advice. I mean, it applies for lunch break and stuff, but also make as much use as you can out of whatever time you have between matches. If you get done with a match early, just go get some fresh air maybe or whatever. I would avoid going to the dealer booths to sell stuff, until you drop from the tournament. Mm-hmm. Either before the tournament, or if you get done with like a half hour left in a round, or sort of towards the end. Mm-hmm. But not, if you have a lot of stuff to move, you're not going to do it in 5 minutes.
Right. And he's going to want to take his time looking through your stuff. Yeah,
and you might even want to shop it around if there's multiple, folks there. See who's offering the best price.
So that's a lot about time management.
Just
not only getting to your
sign your match slip correctly.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Make sure the proper score is marked.
2-1.
There's always every PTQ. There's always one person up there arguing that no, I actually won the match. Well, but it's too late.
You should never sign it. Never sign the slip until you've looked at it, and then looked at it again. Right.
Yeah. So that's good. Sort of a more maybe of a sort of psychological suggestion is you're gonna lose a match at some point, or at least a game. Probably. Don't go on tilt. Like it's. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good advice. It's hard to follow though, but like. I know, especially since this is one of the first PTQs in a new format, there's going to be someone there with some crazy road deck that just blows you out. But a few things to keep in mind. One is you've already faced them, so you don't have to face that deck again until maybe the top 8 or whatever. 2 is that, a rogue deck, by its nature, is rogue because not that many people play it, so you probably won't run into it again. Like when I top 8 down in Cincinnati with Jund. I lost, round 3 or whatever to this. It was this crazy deck. It was like the Mythic deck with Lotus Cobra and stuff, but he had this newfangled thing. He's like, Sovereigns of Lost Alara. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm going to swing, and here's an Eldrazi conscription. I'm like, oh, I guess I can't beat that card.
Yeah.
So I just got smashed or whatever, but, then didn't run into that at all the rest of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Yeah, get plenty of sleep as much as you can. This same PTQ I was just talking about, I won round 1, but I lost my first game because I was so exhausted. We had been up at the casino the night before till 2 a.m., and then someone was snoring in the room, so we didn't really sleep much anyway.
Ouch.
But I didn't even realize the guy's dude had Death Touch, so I blocked like a 4/4, blocked his 3/3 or something. He's like, okay, your guy dies. And his guy had first strike also, so I'm like, your guy dies. And he goes, no. So, yeah, get some sleep. It'll help.
Yeah.
Help you be, on the ball and everything.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if the tournament is far away, sometimes like Michigan, most of the time Michigan. Sometimes I like to spend a little bit of extra money and split a hotel room with somebody, 2-3 guys, whatever. We'll go and we'll split the room. Yeah, it costs a little bit, but you're gonna get that extra play testing in that night because you're with your guys, and you're gonna get some sleep. And you don't have to worry about the 2-hour drive in the morning or 2.5 hour drive.
Get a nice
whatever
breakfast.
It is. Get a nice breakfast. Take your time.
Well rested.
It's really it's invaluable.
Plus, most hotels these days have a hot tub. Friday night hot tub, good times.
Yes, you don't want to. You don't want to. Be hitting the bars at 2 a.m. looking for some ladies to show your cards to.
Right.
When you got a PTQ the next morning.
Yeah, like I was back in February. I was at this high stakes Star Wars card tournament in Princeton, New Jersey, and we were at this the Hilton there, and some people were staying up to like 3, 4 in the morning every night. I was going to bed at like 11, 12, then getting up at 8, spending like an hour in the hot tub, and then starting the rounds at like 10 or 11, and it was so relaxing. It helped me make top 16 or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice.
So definitely well rested, well prepared. Sort of, going right into well prepared, knowing your deck a little bit. Just last night at FNM, I was playing a deck I hadn't played before, and I ran into a few spots where I needed to draw a land off the top, to be able to cast something and win the game. And I didn't know how many lands were in my deck, so I didn't know, what the odds of me drawing one were, so I wasn't sure which line of play to take. Mm-hmm. So, know your deck, know your sideboard. Sideboarding is easy and hard. For a lot of people, they know what they want to bring in. No one knows what to take out, though.
That really is a struggle for some because, like you said, sideboarding is easy. Oh, you're looking at your board, you're like, I need these Ancient Grudges, Zealous Conscript or something like that. You're like, I'm going to need these. And then you're looking through your deck and you're like, what do I take? That was a problem I ran into when I was playing Solar Flare the other day at ARG. I wanted to board in like 6 or 7 cards against this Black Zombies deck. And I'm looking through my main deck, and I'm just like, what do I take out? There's not much I can take out. I want to put in these Timelies, these Sea Purges, and like an extra Ratchet Bomb or something. And I was like, all this stuff is good. I've got like Lingering Souls in my main deck. Those seem to be good. What do I take out? And I wasn't playing any counterspells in the main deck, so I couldn't take out counterspells against the Zombies deck. What do you take out?
I don't know. That's the one thing I like about some of the Delver builds and even the older Illusion builds is it always had 4 Gitaxian probes, in the main. So there was always something easy to cut. It made sideboarding a little easier. Although sometimes I don't even know if that was the right card to cut necessarily, but it seemed like because it was basically a do nothing sort of. But yeah, sideboarding. It's I mean, you'll sideboard in all these, ancient grudges and combust or whatever. Then you look at your deck and you have like three creatures or something. Make sure you still have cards that'll let you win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have ones that prevent your opponent from winning, but you need to still have a win condition.
Yeah, you can't alter your deck so much that sideboarding in those cards is actually hurting you more than it's hurting your opponent, because you're taking away from the consistency of your deck. You can't just be pulling out 1-drops, because then you're going to miss your 1-drop inevitably for your next game. And you can't just start ripping random burn spells out or counter spells out, because then they're going to go on burial rites and you're going to be like, oh, why did I take out my mana?
Yeah, I mean, it's like every one of those 60 cards in your main deck is pretty carefully calculated, to work together and stuff.
Carefully
and you don't
calculated by the internet.
Yeah, by the internet. So you don't want to necessarily just upset that balance to have they have 2 Sword of War and Peace in their deck, so you have 4 Ancient Grudges. Okay, you're always going to kill their sword, but guess what? It's game 3 now. They boarded their swords out. Now you have 4 dead cards in your deck.
The worst thing you can do, I'm totally guilty of this, boarding out too many instants and sorceries, and my Delvers never flipped. Because I boarded out too many, and I wasn't careful about, the consistency of spells to lands to non-spells.
Yeah. Oh, 4 Gataxian Probe out, 4 Oblivion Ring in. I went through that thing, It's like, O-Ring? That doesn't do it.
No. So I gotta be careful about that too. And I know that this is something that Brad brought up earlier about staying cool and not going on tilt, and that was one of the reasons why I called him King of Cool, because I don't think I've ever seen you tilt. I don't think I've ever seen you get too high or get too low in a match.
Usually it's after the match when I'll rant and stuff. Like at times you'll see annoyed looks on my faces, but especially more recently, I've let's be real. Magic is a children's card game, and there's variance, so you're not always gonna win. So you just take it all in stride.
Mm-hmm. Paul Ritzel, playing in Pro Tour Barcelona earlier today, was playing Red-White Boros list, and if any of you watched Game 2, he had his opponent on the ropes, and then he ripped like 5 straight land or something like that, and just lost with 5 land in his hand, and his opponent just drew gas, and came back and won the game. Paul Ritzel thought he had won the game, basically, had his opponent down to 2, and then just ripped a bunch of land. But you never saw anything on his expression. You never saw anything. He never acted. When he pulled that 5th land and knew the game was over, you could not have told by his body language.
Yeah, I mean, don't get too high, don't get too low. I mean, ridiculous stuff happens, and everyone has bad beat stories. No one wants to hear them, but everyone tells them. So that's fine when you're having dinner after FNM or whatever. Makes for good conversation, but don't get too salty about it. Like last night, after I ID'd, in the final round, we're playing it out, and the dude smashed me, just destroyed me. It's like, I could get upset about it, but the reality was his deck was just really well situated against what I had, and there were no cards in the 75 that I had that could beat him,
Right.
And when that's the case, don't get upset, because the mistake you made there was when you put your deck together, days and weeks in advance. I mean, if you make a mistake while you're playing, just try to...
It's a learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, learn from it, try to make the best of it, and, you'll be better equipped the next time.
Yep. Some other things to maybe help you make top 8 while the tournament's going on. Have somebody that can go over the standings with you, because sometimes you get to those later rounds and you're like, where am I? Maybe you're in 9th place with a round to go or 2 rounds to go. Do I have a chance? Do I have to play? Obviously, you have to play if you're in 9th place, but can I go 1-1 or can I go 1-0-1? What do I have to do to get into the top 8. And you know, if you don't have experience messing with the standings numbers and the opponent's win percentage and your win percentage and stuff like that, you know, find somebody that does have experience with that.
Yeah, one of the unfortunate realities of a PTQ is that it's highly unlikely that, you know, most people are going to go to the PTQ with 3 or 4 people in their car. It's unlikely that all of them are going to be in contention, you know, that late into the tournament. So someone will have probably dropped already, so they'll be able to take some time and look at the standings. Yeah. Now the thing is, though, the judges, they don't usually only give you like 3 or 5 minutes to determine. I know in the final round of this one I was at, me and my opponent were trying to figure out if we could draw or not. And the judges, and we were going through the math, and because it was sort of fuzzy, you know, whether we could both draw or not, and the judges were like, you got to make a decision. So we just drew, and as it turned out, all the people below me that I needed to win and lose, it worked out, and so I got into the top 8, but one of your BFFs didn't pull it off, from what I hear.
Are you referring to John Burkle?
Yeah. What a poor beast.
Drawing into 9th place. That's the worst. That is the worst feeling, and that is what you want to avoid. Talk to somebody who knows a little bit about the standings.
Yeah, and if you're, you know, if you can draw and your opponent can draw, you know, there's really not a lot of reason not to. But at the same time, and this is something that my thinking has sort of come around to finally. For a while it was sort of different, but I can't really justify to myself anymore holding a grudge against anyone who chooses to play. At anything, at FNM, you know, a PTQ, whatever. You're there to play Magic, and if they want to play Magic, they're allowed to play Magic. That's, you know, this ID thing, it's allowed and everything, but if they want to play, they can play, and, you know, do your best and battle them. Maybe you win, maybe you lose, but don't, you know, oh, I can't believe you're making me play this out type of thing, because that's nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong.
Yes, they have the right to play. And you have the right to try and talk them into a draw. You can say, would you like to draw? You can talk to them about it, say, you know, look at the standings. You know, you've got these tiebreakers, I've got these tiebreakers, we'll both get in. You can make an effort to talk them into it, but ultimately, if they say, we're going to play, you just need to suck it up. Don't go on tilt because...
Yeah, that's what will happen a lot, is they say... they want to play, and in some ways they've already won then, because you don't want to play, and that's an important... If you're going into the last round and you think you can draw, don't put yourself in the mindset of, I don't have to play. Right. Put yourself in the mindset of, I need to win this round, and then if the draw's there, it's, you know, a bonus, not something that's expected, though.
Right. You can't be sitting there huffing and puffing while you're shuffling your deck.
Also, you can't offer a bribe, you know, to get... I had someone do that to me. I didn't know the rules at the time, but... He was later suspended by the DCI, you know, for doing this to other people, so...
You're like, I've got a Snickers bar with your name on it right here.
Yeah.
So go ahead and draw.
The thing was, we were both, like... Basically, the winner was going to get in, and he's just like, I have better breakers than you, so you should just scoop to me, and I'll give you some packs or something. I'm like, I think I'd just rather play and make it myself, you know? Because he wasn't offering to draw, he wanted me to actually scoop to him. You know, which is sort of maybe a different scenario, but in some ways, you know, you can't bribe someone regardless, you know. Also, interestingly, I checked with the judges on this because I was curious, because, you know, if you're in the finals of a PTQ, you can offer, you know, the booster boxes or whatever for the envelope. My question was, can you offer anything on the table and actually give them your deck, which is like $500 cash or something? You know, because I thought that was a pretty clever way to sort of get around the bribery rules. Can't do it, apparently.
You can only
offer actual prizes that are offered.
Prize pool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so draw if you can, but I mean, look at those numbers. Brendan and I are actually both going to be at this PTQ, and we know some about how it all works and stuff. So if you can't find anyone else, ask us. You know. Yeah, I'll refer you to some of my associates who actually know it. I mean, a lot of the time there's a clean cut, and that makes it easy.
Sometimes it's not as complicated as
sometimes it's real straightforward, and that's cool.
scout. Either you scout, or have some friends that will scout for you if you think you're going to make the top 8. There's no worse feeling than sitting down from a top 8 opponent and having no idea what they're playing. That is the worst, because they probably have an idea of what you're playing if they took the time to scout and had friends that were scouting for you. When you sit down, it would be nice if you had an idea of what your opponent was playing. So when you look at your opening 7, you can say, "Oh, this is good against an aggro deck," and I happen to know my opponent is playing an aggro deck. So I'll keep. You don't. It's not cheating to know what your opponent is playing, right, because you scouted. It's an advantage. And
if you're doing well at the PTQ, you're gonna know what's been played at the top because you're gonna have been there most of the day and look to your left, look to your right, and then there's just the masses during the last few rounds just huddled around the top, few tables. So you'll have sort of an idea, but it's something that you should look into.
I totally failed in regards to this. It was the first modern PTQ that I went to in Michigan. I was playing Red White Boros, and that was the one I took second place in, because in the finals I go up against this guy who's playing black blue blade of some kind. He's got swords and everything, and I didn't know what his deck was. I saw Delvers, Snapcasters, and Vendilion Clicks, and so I thought it was maybe like an aggressive blue-black deck. And so I boarded in Volcanic Fallouts, thinking I'm going to need these to kill his Delvers, Clicks, and Snapcasters and stuff. And even after Game 2, I think I won Game 1, he won Game 2, or something like that. And even when we were going into Game 3, I still didn't know that he was much more of a blue-black control deck. Mm. And he boarded out his Delvers and stuff like that. So I had so many bad cards in my deck. Volcanic Fallout was totally worthless, and that's because I didn't do a good enough job of scouting, and I didn't prepare myself for that matchup, and I ended up blowing it. I should have had a chance at least. But I always regret that, and that's why I bring up scouting now, because it's something I regret not doing a better job of.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Another thing I've been noticing people do, which is good, and I'm trying to make a habit of it too, is when you go to draw your card for your turn,
the miracle,
you always look at it like it could be a miracle, because it could throw your opponent off. Oh, is he playing Thunderous Wrath? Or is he playing Terminus or something like that, or Bonfire? And if you sit there and look at it, plus it's just a good habit, because if you ever have a Delver out and you just pull the card into your hand, how many times have you done that? You're just like, oh, my Delver. Oh, I could have flipped my Delver.
Yeah, and FNMs and stuff. Really, I guess not the drafts I've been doing. I've been drafting AVR, even though it's sort of horrible. But it always seems, and it's just casual drafts, so there's no rules, But the opponent draws, shuffles their hand around. Oh, miracle, by the way. So, sure, buddy, sure. Yeah, we're all friends here.
Wow, you just ripped that right off the top, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm like, what a master. One thing, real quick, I wanted to hit on.
Yeah.
And I should have brought this up earlier, but I just sort of thought of it. At the PTQ, don't be afraid to call judges.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, just for anything, and I mean, don't feel like you're the bad guy for trying to make your opponent not cheat and play by the rules. Because so. Call the judges, hand high in the air. Maybe if you have a phone or whatever, sort of look at what time you're doing that, and they'll usually give you a time extension if it takes a while. But yeah, and they're supposed to be there. Sit down, ready to roll after 3 minutes. Sideboarding, you only get 3 minutes between games. And if they're taking longer than that, call the judge. And
the worst part is if your opponent is somebody that you know. Maybe not even your friend, but maybe you see them all the time at your local store, or you see them posting all the time in the Cleveland Facebook. And you hate to call a judge over on somebody that you're probably going to run into again in the short future. You hate to do that, but there's something to be said about doing things the appropriate way. And if you were to call a judge on me in a PTQ, I would not take offense to that because you're doing what
Right.
you feel you need to do to maintain the honesty of the game.
Yeah, and if you have a question, a rules question, ask the judge. Don't be afraid, even if it seems sort of simple. Even if the guy next to you is like, "Oh yeah, I'm a level 3 judge. Of course you can do that." just call the person in the actual judge's shirt and everything that's there.
Yep. So we're gonna play some Magic now.
Let's battle.
Let's do that. We have stirred the pot. Now we're gonna battle. And you're gonna be playing what today?
I'm gonna play red-green aggro, but I have an issue with that name. I don't understand why sometimes color combination we refer to by like their shard or whatever, I'm playing, Esper control or something, but other things we don't. Like red-green is red-green, it's not Gruul. I don't understand where we draw that, because then you maybe make the argument, well, the shards we call by the shards, but the other color, but then it's Boros. Every red-white deck ever is Boros. So, I don't get it. I'm playing Gruul Beats.
He is just full of good points today. That's awesome.
Okay.
Gruul Beats. Alright. I have Goblins.
Uh-oh.
And there will be explosions and bodies flying everywhere. Carnage is coming. Alright, you ready to go?
Let's do this.
Let's play some cards.